This is Robert the DCD Workman with US Gamer, here to talk to you today about PC games that you'll be able to play on low-spec systems, and actually fun ones too. Because let's be honest, not all of us can afford complex graphics cards that would allow us to run Battlefield 4 without breaking a sweat, or a big water cooler system that would put most low-rent apartments to shame. So here now we have a few suggestions in which you can check out without really doing too much damage to your system. All you really need to have is a dedicated graphics card, basic model or a recent edition of Intel HD graphics, a dual-core processor, and a couple of gigs of RAM. We're going to get started here with our first choice, Kentucky Route Zero. Now, if you liked Telltale Games' The Walking Dead, this game is for you. It's got a slick writing style that goes across 5 acts, 2 of which are available now, the other 3 which will be available shortly. And it focuses on exploration as you go underground underneath the city of Kentucky, or the state of Kentucky rather, just to explore secret roads. It's actually a very cool game from what we checked out, and it won't put your processors to the limit, so be sure to check that out. Next up is Gunpoint. Now, Gunpoint is an adventure game, but it's based more around puzzles and stealth rather than straight-up gunplay. You are able to maneuver throughout each 2D style level with jumping abilities, being able to stick to walls, climb on ceilings, rewire devices like light switches and doors, and rewire enemies' weapons, which you can use to your advantage. Now, in order to use these, you have to kind of like use them in sequence. You can like wire a light switch to open a security door or a guard's gun to turn out the lights in order to trick enemies. It's all about working your way through the level without really having to rely on gunplay. Like I said, it's pretty unique, and there's a demo available on Steam as well as the official Gunpoint website. Now, next up, if you are a fan of classic, hard-as-nails, side-scrolling games, we're talking to you Ghosts and Goblins fans. Then there's Rogue Legacy. Now, this is a game in which you have to fight your way through rooms of enemies, and it's like a Metroidvania style game where it gets really, really hard as you go along, okay? You basically, or you're going to die often, but thankfully you have characters you can regenerate as, each with special abilities and attributes that you can use over the course of the adventure. If you are a fan of those older 16-bit games, or even the 8-bit games, the NES style, absolutely. This is a game worth checking out, especially with its random heroes. You never know who you're going to end up with next, before they die 10 seconds later. And up next, we have an interesting strategy game called FTL, Faster Than Light. This is easily one of last year's better games. It's a game where you command a spaceship crew through randomized star systems, encountering enemy ships, traders, distress beacons, and new crew members along the way. But the thing is this, not everybody is infallible. You can easily lose crew members, and you sometimes have to restart just to get a fresh start, if you will. There are offensive and defensive decisions that you have to make throughout the game, but that's part of the learning process. I mean, if somebody dies, just come back, okay, we're not going to do that again. Probably a good idea there. Definitely check out FTL. It's a lot of fun, and as always, it will not do anything to your system, especially if you're low spec. Next up is Unity of Command. If you like good war games, this is a good way to go. This realistic strategy game, it offers a really complex system. You're able to play in a turn-based style that's similar to like Advance Wars or Fire Emblem, and it's very cool from what we've seen so far. Plus, it's graphically colorful without going like 5 gig, 6 gig on storage. Next up is Mountain Blade. Mountain Blade is a medieval mercenary simulator that puts players in the middle of a fictionalized sandbox world and tasks them with building an army and negotiating alliances or conflicts with various warring countries. Now, battles always play out in real time, and you can see like what your characters are doing all over the place. There are dozens to choose from, and you also have a few expansions available that all have historical settings, along with other cool little bonus features. There's even a Star Wars mod if you're bored, or you want to play around with a bunch of Chewbacca's. And of course, we have to mention Microsoft's Torchlight 2. Obviously, the original came from a group of former Diablo developers and created its own sense of adventure that a lot of fans got into, both on PC and Xbox 360. The sequel, which is currently only a PC release, it offers a lot of new levels to explore, as well as multiplayer, where you can play along with your fellow friends. And, it looks really good considering it's like a low-spec style game, so you don't have to worry about it overdoing your computer. It's really nice. And a number of character classes are available, so if you want to play it as different types, you always have the option to. And there's also a New Game Plus option, so you can always have good replay value. Next up is Hotline Miami. This was one of last year's most critically acclaimed games, despite the fact it was also incredibly violent. Hey, what the hey, sometimes you need to let loose. You play as a psychopath who goes about on a number of missions, trying to wipe out guys as quickly as he can, using a number of weapons that are available. It's a gruesome combat system, but one that's very effective, and also one that's challenging, because hey, you only have one life. One hit, actually. In fact, if you were even touched, you're probably dead. So it's best to really get your practice on for this game, especially considering Hotline Miami 2 is just a few months away from release. If you're looking more for a classic style platformer, you'll want to check out Fez. This is an adventurous 8-bit style game with some cool little 3D graphics in which you rotate yourself around the world trying to solve puzzles. Basically, think like a mixture of NES classic design with the ability to shift the environment however you please. It requires a lot of exploration and extremely deep investigation into its environments, but that just adds to its replay value. Who knows what kind of secrets you'll be able to find. Next up is Machinarium. This is a point-and-click adventure, sort of like in the classic style of design, but really cool. You're basically trying to scavenge your way through a world populated by robots. It's not really a violent game, it's more of a puzzle-solving game where you have to build on different specs in order to solve certain situations and get further on into the game. It's really cool stuff. And that'll do it, guys, for our rundown of games that you can play on low-spec systems. We certainly hope you'll shop around and enjoy them. I'm Robert, the DCD Workman, and we'll see you next time.